It's tolerably cool here tonight, and I was just watching a video with Jordan Peterson in it, actually. And it, for some reason, got me thinking about the Michael Dyson speech at the Munk debate, which I was going to do a video on, I just didn't have the time. And I thought I'd come back to it because it was interesting. So let's have a listen to what Michael has to say, because I find his worldview fascinating.
Thank you very kindly. Wonderful opportunity to be here in Canada. Thank you so much. I'm going to stand here at the podium. I'm a preacher. And I will ask for an offering at the end of my presentation. This is the swimsuit competition of the intellectual beauty pageant. So let me show you the curves of my thought. Oh my God, was that a politically incorrect statement I just made? How did we get to the point where the...
Honestly, right? I mean, I don't think people kind of think of it that way, do they? Is it politically incorrect? A swimsuit? I mean, I know it is, but does the regular person look at a swimsuit competition and go, that's politically incorrect? And if they do, is that not worrying? You know, like it's just such a strange thing. Is that a politically incorrect comment? It's like, well, I mean, sure, I suppose if you were a real zealot.
Hijacking of the discourse on political correctness has become a kind of Manichaean distinction between us and them. The
Manichaean distinctions between us and them. I'm sure I'm not going to see very many of those during your, I don't know, 5 minutes or however long you've got.
Fantasy just presented is remarkable for both its clarity and yet the muddiness of the context from which it has emerged. What's interesting to me is that when we look at the radical left, I'm saying, where they at? I want to join them.
Okay, well that tells us everything we need to know about your politics, and it tells us everything we need to know about what you're about to say. Suddenly I know, I mean, I can't really remember exactly what he says, but I know that he goes on about white men and black people. And, I mean, that's his Manichaean distinctions. And isn't it Manichaean anyway? But, I mean, what could we possibly have to say to one another at this point, Michael? I mean, we know you're going to be the most predictable man on earth at this point, aren't you?
They ain't running nothing. I'm from a country where a man stands up every day to tweet.
They ain't running nothing, apart from the universities, which is why Jordan Peterson is famous, and why Stephen Fry, a famous comedian and intellectual, is sat with him. They ain't running nothing. What about fucking schools? What about HR departments? Fucking... There are feminist, like, cabals and societies in my government. Like, fuck me, man. And you've got them in yours. What do you think the Democratic Party is at the moment? How many people in the Democratic Party do you think will openly say that they're not feminists? It's surely got to be a fairly small amount.
The moral mendacity of his viciousness into a nation he has turned into his psychic commode.
Do you think that you guys had never done that? Do you think that Donald Trump created this environment? Or was this environment that created Donald Trump?
Y'all got Justin, we got Donald.
Well, the Me Too movement's only actually going after one of those, because the other one just tells them to get bent.
So what's interesting then is that political correctness has transmogrified into a caricature of the left. The left came up with the term political correctness.
Yes, it was invented by communists in the Soviet Union. No shit, it was invented by the left. The liberals think you should be free. And I guess the liberals are just the right now. Anyone who's not a goddamn Marxist.
Shall I remind you? We were tired of our excuses and our excesses and our exaggerations. We were willing to be self-critical in a way that I fear my confrères, my compatriots, are not.
Man, I am honestly amazed. I view everything that Marxism has done as a path to power, a deliberate, manipulative path to power, rather than like an honest attempt at self-critique. I mean, can you even imagine holding the positions you have if it wasn't obviously for your own self-interest? Just insane that you think it could be like by the way, I'm a black activist. For what? Black identity. Oh, amazing. What a coincidence. Like, dude, alright, that's, whatever.
Don't take yourself too seriously. Smile. Take yourself not seriously at all, but what you do with deadly seriousness. Now it is transmogrified into an attempt to characterize the radical left. The radical left is a metaphor, it's a symbol, it's an articulation. They don't exist. Their numbers are too small.
Oh, well, you just got a Democratic Socialist elected in New York, didn't you? So how small are they really? But even then, it doesn't require the entire nation to become radical left. It just requires them to gain power. The entirety of Germany were not Nazis. They just gained power.
I'm on college campuses. I don't see much of them coming.
Fucking Jesus. Okay, maybe it's because they're not coming for you. Do you think there might be some kind of skin privilege involved in that? Maybe.
When I hear about identity politics, it amazes me.
Because you're the very fucking top of the pile. You literally benefit the fucking... Well, not quite the most. You're a man. If you were trans, you would literally be a trans Muslim black man. You would be right at the top of that set of privileges in that hierarchy that has been deliberately set out because you're against hierarchies.
The collectivist identity politics, last time I checked, white folk invented race.
Okay, let's say they did. Let's say that there are a bunch of people in like the 18th century or something that created the term race. That doesn't change the philosophical distinction that you've just dodged there. If white people invented race, therefore, it's okay for black people to be collectivist identitarians? How does that follow? Shouldn't you be rejecting the thing that the evil white man has done, which was to invent race, and say, no, we're individualists, thank you very much. Just like our ancient ancestors always were, I'm sure. For fuck's sake, why are you embracing this, what you consider to be like the category created for you by the racists? Like, I can't believe how much I would want to reject that in every fucking way if I felt that for my people for hundreds of years had been linguistically oppressed by the creation of these categories and then the enforcement of this through law. And then through, obviously, the force of the enforcement of the law, I would be like, look, whatever mindset got them into that, we can't follow it. So if they're like, right, we're doing racial collectivism, like, right, well, we won't do that. We won't do that. We'll do something else, anything else. But instead, you're like, so it's okay for me to be a racial collectivist because you invented this? It's like, why are you willingly making yourself the victim of 19th century racists? That's my question. Michael, I think his name is, Michael Dyson.
That was an invention from a dominant culture that wanted groups to at their behest.
So resist.
The invention of race was driven by the demand of a dominant culture to subordinate others. Patriot, right?
Yeah, dude, no one's in favor of racism. But at this point, you're talking about the racism of people who died hundreds of years ago. So, like, I'm sorry that they were racist. I'm not a racist, and therefore I don't really want to play identity politics. How about you stop playing identity politics, because that's what the racists did. It's why I look at you as a racist, in fact, to be honest, Michael, but I know that you don't think you can be racist because you don't have power, despite the fact that you're a wealthy, well-educated man, professor, speaking on a stage. I mean, influencing minds. Millions of people have watched this, but you don't have any institutional power. Let's carry on.
Patriarchy was the demand of men to have their exclusive vision presented.
Okay, and we're not a patriarchy now. We haven't been a patriarchy for a long time. What do you want me to do? Since way before I was born, dude.
The beauty of feminism is it's not going to resolve differences between men and women. It just says men don't automatically get the last word.
But I love how you've managed to drag feminism into this. I thought you were going to start talking about race. Dragging feminism into this just goes to show you that political correctness is unbelievably bound up with the left, and it is the tool by which you use to censor opposition. It's how you gain ground. It's how you form power centers, and how you defend them is through accusations of racism, sexism, transphobia, Islamophobia, all these sort of things. And it's just like, it's got to stop. You are unfairly dictating the terms of the debate, and against people to whom those terms don't apply, but to people you can't understand because you are a racial collectivist. And so when you're talking to an individualist, I mean, you can't seem to define yourself or view the world in any other lens. So as soon as you meet an individualist like Jordan Peterson or Stephen Fry, you just sit there and go, well, they don't seem to be obvious racists, but I'm certain there's racism in there because they don't agree with me.
Of course, in my crib, they never did. And so identity politics...
Then what's the fucking problem? Like, why are you bothered about it? It's not something that's directly influencing your life. As far as you're concerned, the women are doing pretty well.
has been generated as a bête noire of the right, and yet the right doesn't understand the degree to which identity has been foisted upon black people and brown people and people of color from the very beginning on women and trans people. You think that I want to be part of a group that is constantly abhorred by people at Starbucks?
Unironically, AJ Plus reported today that Starbucks says it will pay for transgender employees to have gender reassignment surgery, plus cosmetic procedures like face and breast surgeries, to allow them to be who they truly are. Starbucks could not be more progressive if they tried. Did you miss the fact that they just shut down all of their stores in North America for an entire afternoon to give them diversity training? I'll put a link in the description to a video by Short Fat Otaku where he goes through it. It's progressive indoctrination. It's nuts. And it's just like, this guy's like, Starbucks are racist. No, dude, you're a lunatic. You are just out of touch with reality. I'm sorry to say it. You just are.
I'm minding my own black business.
Exactly. You can't just mind your business. It has to be black business. You have to do it. You can't not do it. You see it in everything, even when it's not appropriate. And it's not appropriate in probably most of what you suggest. And you do it justifying the position from people from hundreds of years ago. Dude, no one thinks like that anymore. White people in general do not just think like that.
Walking down the street, I have group identity thrust upon me. They don't say, ah, ha, ha, there goes a Negro.
You're right, they don't say there goes a Negro. They don't say that. That's like that's not what they say.
Highly intelligent, articulate, verbose.
Oh look, I don't want to get into stereotypes. I mean, if they do say that about, say, Chinese people, and they don't say that about black people, it's just because of the actions that these two groups take, and that forms the stereotype. If you want people to say that about you, you need to be like the Chinese people, just copy them.
Capable of rhetorical fury at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, I don't think they'd say that about most people, to be honest. This is starting to feel a bit like your own self-aggrandizement.
We should not interrogate him as to the bona fides of his legal status.
And they don't. Let's be honest, you don't get harassed on the street because you are wearing a suit and you're in your 50s or 60s or whatever. You know, if you were a 17-year-old young man and you had gangs, tattoos, and you walked around with loads of jewelry and stuff like this, and you were causing trouble, then maybe it'd be different. Or it looked like you were about to cause trouble, then maybe it'd be different. You know, you're obviously not getting that, but again, you racialize everything. You can't not do it.
No, they treat me as part of a group. And the problem is...
Yeah, but what group? What group are they treating you as? Are they treating you as old scholarly men, which is a group? You're in a stage full of old scholarly men, my dude. Or do they just treat you as a black person?
Is that our friends don't want to acknowledge is that the hegemony, the dominance of that group has been so vicious that it has denied us the opportunity to exist as individuals. Individualism is the characteristic moment in modernity.
Yeah, but you don't seem to have any interest in it. You seem to have wrapped yourself in the identitarianism of the left. I mean, how are they denying your ability to be an individual if you don't know who the fuck you're talking about? You're just making assumptions that a cop's going to pull you over or something, but I bet you don't get pulled over by cops. So you go through your normal daily routine just as like everyone else, but in your own mind, you're still a slave, man. In your mind, you think white people think that way, and they just don't. And this is what Kanye was trying to say. You know, this is you making the choice to be like this now. You know, you need to really think about the way you do things.
Mr. Peterson is right. The development of the individual, however, is predicated upon notions of intelligence. Immanuel Kant and David Hume and others. Philosophically, Descartes comes along, introducing knowledge into the phrase, saying that knowledge is based upon a kind of reference to the golden intelligence, the reflective glass that one possesses, and yet he got rooted in the very ground.
Here's a secret. I've never read any Descartes. I've always read about him from other people, rather than... I can't believe I fucking spilled tea on myself. I've never read anything by him. It's not I don't want to, it's just that I know he's wrong. And so I don't... I'm sure it's a really fascinating read, and I'm sure he's a beautiful writer, but I don't have time to waste on it. It's annoying.
Of our existence. So knowledge has fleshly basis, and what I'm saying to you, the knowledge that I bring as a person of color makes a difference in my body, because I know what people think of me and I know how they respond to me, and that ain't no...
You know what people think of you, do you? You don't know shit. You have absolutely no idea what people think of you. You know what you think people think of you, and what you think people think of you is deeply influenced by your ideological worldview, because you're a fucking zealot. You seem to not be able to not see the world in this way, and it's like, dude, you don't know what they're thinking, but the way they react to you might not be because you're black, it might be because you're a fucking weird ideologue and people are sick of your shit. Just saying, it might be you they're reacting to, not the fact that you're black.
Theory. Am I mad at trigger warnings? The only trigger warning I want is from a cop. Are you about to shoot me?
Yeah, he's not. And you know it.
Not funny. In America, where young...
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like a joke. Because you're obviously not the sort of person who's going to get shot by a cop. Man in a suit. Old man in a suit. Doesn't really matter the race. An old man in a suit isn't going to get shot by a cop. I saw a video going around of an older woman, about 60-ish, old boomer white woman, berating these two 30-ish young white cops. And someone was like, this is white privilege. And I was just like, no, this is boomer privilege. This is middle-class boomer privilege. If that was a low-class white woman, we wouldn't have had it. They wouldn't have been standing for that at all. But it's because the woman reminded them of their mum. Just saying.
Young black people die repeatedly, unarmed, without provocation. And so for me, identity politics is something very serious. And what's interesting about safe spaces, I hear...
Sorry to be slow on that one, but yeah, for you, identity politics is something very serious, as it is for me. It's something that you are obsessed with and you're using to your own advantage, against me, who is not using it to my own advantage. Because I consider that to be the moral thing to do.
Here about the university, I teach there. Look, if you're in a safe space in your body, you don't need a safe space. Some of the...
Well, I agree with you, actually. I think that's true.
That is overblown. Some of it is ridiculous. I understand. I believe that the classroom is a robust place for serious learning.
Well, there are a lot of students who disagree with you. Could you do something about those students, rather than continue to incite them to what you're doing because it benefits you?
I believe in the interrogation of knowledge based upon our understanding mutually of the edifying proposition of enlightenment.
Okay, so why are you... I mean, you're obviously not speaking about the Enlightenment, but it's a nice, throw out there. It's like, well, I mean, I'm for Enlightenment. It's like, are you? Are you really?
At the same time, some people ain't as equal as others. So we...
Well, okay, there we go. I mean, okay, what rights do you not have that Jordan Peterson has? Oh, black people get shot by cops, therefore... No, get fucked, dude.
You have to understand the conditions under which they have emerged and in which they have been benighted and attacked by their own culture.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? We're not doing that now. You know, in the 90s, no one acted like that. No one was doing that sort of thing in popular culture. It was weirdly multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, without anyone ever going on about it. And it just made they were focused on the actual things happening. And it made it interesting. And now it's all about creating propaganda, and it's really dull.
I ain't seen nobody be a bigger snowflake than white men who complain.
Jesus Christ, you're on a fucking stage whinging that because you're black, blah, blah, blah. And you've been going on about it for ages, but the things you're saying I don't think are true. So basically you've made up your victim complex. You are not in danger from the cops. In any way, shape, or form, just because you're black. There are other things you have to do to be put in danger from cops. And it's not just, I was born black. I'm sorry to say this. I'm really sorry to say this, but there are things that white people can do that put them in danger from cops too. And like Jordan Peterson and Stephen Fry aren't doing them either. None of you are in danger from cops. Just shut up, man.
Mommy, they won't let us play and have everything we used to have under the...
Okay, listen to him. Have everything we used to have, right? This is what he thinks, that when people are being racially discriminated against, he thinks that those people complaining, who are being discriminated against, are complaining because they secretly want to return to the imperial glory days where we kept black slaves. That's what he thinks everyone else thinks.
The old regime where we were right, racist and supremacists and dominant and patriarchs and hated...
Listen to that. Like, who wants to go back to that? Who the hell does he think he's representing? But he's like, I know what they think. This is what he thinks they think. Dude, you don't know what people think. You are a lunatic, as far as I'm concerned. The idea that... fucking hell, like, if there was slavery in the West today... I would be an abolitionist. I would make videos non-stop about the fucking cruelty of slavery, the inhumanity, man's inhumanity to man, and the fact that this is just a violation of everything, every liberal principle that I hold. Like, I would just be like, this is unbelievable, and it has to stop. And I would be marching and demonstrating for that. Like, the idea that you think that most people are in favour of that is fucking crazy.
Gays and lesbians and transsexuals that, yeah, you gotta share.
You gotta share what? Share what? Share fucking what, man? Don't discriminate against me because I'm white, just because things happened in the past that I had no control over. I'm sorry, you've got to share. What the fuck are you talking about? You want me to be oppressed too? You want me in my head to be oppressed like you are oppressed in your head? Because physically, you're clearly not being oppressed. Physically, you're on a stage, you're wearing a suit, you're obviously making a lot of money, you're a professor at a university, you're not being oppressed. I don't care what you have to say. I can look at you and see that oppression is not going on there. Do you understand? Any oppression that's going on is in your head and you need to see a therapist. And you're talking to one, in fact. You're actually talking to a fucking therapist, and instead of actually listening to what he has to say, because remember, I don't think you're a psychologist, are you? I'm sure that you're going to be something like an African history specialist. He is his specialist on how people are, how they act and operate and think, like the things that drive them, personalities. You probably could do with a bit of help from Jordan Peterson, to be honest. I'm just saying.
This ain't your world, this everybody's world.
Okay, great. It's everybody's world. So now don't racially discriminate against me. That's what I want. Don't discriminate against me based on my sex or my gender or anything like this. So stop giving me this white men are evil narrative, please. It's bullshit. We're not evil. Thank you. I don't know why I have to say that. Like...
And let me end by saying this. You remember that story from David Foster Wallace? Fish are going down, two fish are going, and an older fish comes in the opposite direction. He said, hello, boys, how's the water? They swim on, they turn to each other, what the hell is water? Because when you're in it, you don't know it. When you're dominant, you don't know it.
Then how do you know you're not dominant?
Nothing, Kaiser Soze said, is more interesting that the devil did than to make people believe he didn't exist.
Oh, for fuck's sake. Are we actually... Okay. Didn't you mix a metaphor there? Wasn't that... Again, if you're the one exercising power over people and you abase in this way, you say, oh, no, the left doesn't have any power. The left does have power. There are institutions in which the left is currently operating racial discrimination. I mean, look at Asians in Harvard at the moment. They're being actively discriminated against as if they're white people, and they're a minority. It doesn't stop. It's never going to stop. You're going to keep going on and on and on and on. And I'm sorry, this can't continue. This is creating a society that I find intolerable, and I think a lot of other people find intolerable, and you're trying to keep us down using the tool of political correctness. And I'm sorry, I know I'm not a racist, so I don't care what your opinion of me is in this regard. So just get over it.